Welcome to Don't Forget to FOSS, a weekly podcast of indeterminate length, hosted by me, Robin Monks. This episode is for June 24th, 2025. FOSS, of course, stands for Free Open Source Software. Each week, I'll look through a few projects that are exciting to me and share details about what I think is cool in the community. Today, I'm highlighting two projects, taking a look at the Mastodon terms of service situation, and also looking at the matrix and element changes that have caused some stress in the community. First, I want to talk about Harper. If you're familiar with Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid, Grammar Checker, word usage tools, there is now an open source version that you can use, complete with private on-device grammar checking. It's called Harper, and it's writewithharper.com. So far, Harper is a bit more limited. It has plugins for Google Chrome, Obsidian, and Visual Studio Code. It does only support English right now, as the author is trying very hard to get to a point of excellence in English before moving on to other languages. But if you're using English as your native language, it works really well. And it also contains the same kind of hints and word choice and repetition warnings you would expect from something like a Grammarly. Grammarly these days is becoming quite expensive and also becoming a bit more questionable with their use of AI generation. So Harper's a way to get more away from that and more towards what matters to you when it comes to grammar checking. Harper is available right now in the Chrome extension gallery. So if you're using Chrome, Vivaldi, any other sort of Chrome derivative, you can go over to the Chrome extension gallery and grab that right now. It's also available if you search for Harper in Visual Studio Code extensions. And there is the Obsidian plugin as well. It's launched under the Apache 2.0 license. It's currently being supported by Automatic, which I know has its own issues in the community at the moment. But nonetheless, this tool seems to be well supported and has a lot of active development. The next thing I want to share is interesting to me as a longtime PHP developer. One of my first real jobs was coding Drupal websites. Drupal, of course, being a PHP CMS, was heavily involved in that community for a number of years. Spent a lot of time writing and coding in PHP. Also went through a few years of the shame that came with being a PHP developer, as PHP became the brunt of a lot of jokes in the industry. I think a lot of that was undeserved even at the time, and it has, in more recent times, been seen in a better light. Of course, WordPress, MediaWiki, which is what Wikipedia runs on, and even Facebook are all PHP projects. But in the world of PHP, free and open source software, there is something that has been around for a while. I just noticed it this week. It's called FrankenPHP, and it is a PHP app server written in Golang. So if you're interested in a very fast, very easy single file deployment solution for running and hosting PHP software, FrankenPHP.dev has some amazing documentation and some really easy ways to get started quickly. One of the cool things is because it's Go, it can run in a single file. It also has skeletons and examples for Symfony, Laravel, WordPress, Drupal, and Magento is in there. So if you're interested in trying this out, I would recommend checking it out, going to FrankenPHP.dev. Because it's a single file standalone binary for your platform, there's nothing to lose really. You can download it, try it out, try an example. It has homebrew support built in if you're on macOS like I am, and some nice support for Laravel. So if you're using anything like Octane and Artisan, you can use it directly with FrankenPHP, and it works as you would expect. It's actually somewhat boring in how well it works. If you do want to use it in production, there are Docker images available, but it does make it very, very simple now to be able to launch a PHP application. So definitely recommend checking it out. The links will be in the show notes. For those who are using Mastodon and have been watching some of the community reactions to the new Mastodon.social terms of service, they blew up a lot last week. And Cory Doctorow, famous for coining the term enshittification, as well as a bunch of his writing and media appearances recently, also posted about this. And so it got a lot of attention. But the Mastodon.social instance from the service update included a bunch of language that you would expect to usually see in much more corporate, much more evil companies' terms of service, including things like a class action waiver and binding arbitration. This caused a pretty big stir in the community, and there was a bunch of pushback, so that's been frozen for now. The update for this, if you've not seen the update, I know a lot of times news gets around very quickly, but revisions and updates to that news don't get around so quickly. The person who runs Mastodon.social has indicated that they have paused this and will not be taking action at the moment. They're going to be reviewing this with some lawyers and some pro bono resources that reached out to assist. And they're making a better, less shitty terms of service for the future. So there's a good resolution, hopefully, in the works for this one. It definitely is concerning to see how far along this got before people caught it. And I do think folks will be a bit more cautious in the future. The last thing I'll bring up today, I wanted to talk about Element and Matrix. Element and Matrix had a lot of traction last week on some stories that they were fighting. The commercial Element and the open source Matrix Foundation were kind of at loggerheads. There were deep financial issues. The future of Matrix is being called into question. It sounds like there was a fair bit of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around that situation. Both Element and Matrix have come out with updates where they largely disclaim anything that was suggested in the other sorts of posts that were made last week. Matrix especially came out saying that they feel they have the independence they need, as well as options towards the financial independence they need to continue to create the Matrix protocol, and made it clear that Element does not get an undue stake in the future of the protocol. Both of those are good things to hear. As someone who uses Matrix, it definitely makes me feel a bit more comfortable. It's always going to be a bit of a wait and see. I'm not sure I fully buy that Matrix is as independent as it needs to be, but I do think that the concerns raised last week were overblown. So this news puts me into more of a neutral state. As someone who uses Matrix, I'm optimistic, but I do think we'll have to watch this to see where it lands in the future. So that's it. That's your 10 minutes of free open source software news, information, some things to check out. Links will be in the show notes. This will be out on podcasts for your podcast catchers. Expect to see a new show probably every week until I get bored of doing this. You can go to my website at rpm.sh to get the show and to see what else I'm working on. And I will catch you back in your feed next week. Take care.